Hello and welcome. Let's talk about formulas, functions, and then cell linking in Smartsheet. These are things that only apply in Smartsheet sheets. You can't do them in reports, you can't do them in dashboards, you can't do them in forms. But it's also very important that you know them nonetheless, because this most likely will be on your exam. So I've actually added 5 different exam prep slides to the end of this course. Hang in there, get through the end. I promise you it'll be worth your time. So we're going to start with just an overview of the different formulas and functions in Smartsheet, the operators list like adding, subtracting, notable functions, and then, as I said before, a good bit of exam prep, starting with parent and children functions, referencing, autofill, functions with cell linking, and then functions with checkboxes. To start off with, you enter the equal sign just like you would in Google Sheets or in Microsoft Excel to begin a function. As soon as you press equals inside of a cell, you're telling Smartsheet I'm about to tell you a function or a formula to use. Next, bullet functions cannot be used in cells with dependencies or those used in resource management. System-generated columns, like recording the date that a cell was modified or a date that a row was added, things like this, cannot accommodate functions. And lastly, column formulas mean additional rows will adopt the same formula in certain columns. As a matter of fact, we already did that once, where we clicked, just like you see down here, convert to a column formula. After you add the formula into one cell, you right-click in that cell, and you'll get this drop-down where you can click that, and that formula extends to the entire column. Here is your operator list. I'm going to flip by this. Feel free to reference it in the future. Most notably, I think, is at the bottom, these last 4. Greater than or equal to looks like this. Less than or equal to, equals, and does not equal to. Notable functions include logic. So Smartsheet has a full slew of logic functions like AND, OR, if error. You can see all those. Again, children parent, will be practicing those later on. You can say equals count if, equals count if s. Functions, average function, I talked about that previously. Today, if you just say equals today, open parenthesis, close parenthesis, the cell will record the date so long as it's in a date column, date type column. Nested if statements, if you don't know what this means, it's pretty simple. It just means any number of if statements inside of other if statements. So you could say, if this cell has a value greater than 3, say true, if not, say false. But if you put another if statement in there, like this one, if cell equals if, and then in parentheses, cell is greater than 3, this if statement would be triggered if this statement was true. This is called a nested if statement because this if statement is nested inside of this if statement. Next up are Boolean functions, which means binary, true or false, ones or zeros. We had some practice on those with the checkboxes. And then lastly are references. So if you do a absolute reference, that means you put a $sign in front of the column and a $sign in front of the row. Then when you autofill, which is to say click and drag the little function expanding icon at the bottom right of a cell when you've clicked on it, and you drag it, doesn't matter if you drag it horizontally, if you drag it vertically, this cell will always be the same one referenced. That's called absolute. Versus, conversely, you have relative references, which is you either lock, so to speak, the column, which is in this case $sign owner, but then you'll notice there's no $sign here, which means if we were to drag this down across different rows, the row reference would change. Conversely, this one, where the $sign is just on the row, so the row number would never change. We'll see that in a little bit as well.